Your extra meeting.
Being 7 o'clock, the 19th of September, I hereby call the Ossipee Planning Board to order. Please rise and pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag
of
the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Rick didn't make it tonight.
I haven't talked to Rick in a couple days.
Okay, man, you may call.
Okay, Steve
Call see
McGowan.
if you forgot.
Nixon Jean is absent. Sam Martin is absent.
Oh, yeah.
Morgan's in for her. Mr. Otterbach.
Here.
Peter Zavas.
Wait.
Is that him coming in?
No,
Mr. Gillette is absent. Dennis Legendre.
here,
Roy Barron.
Yep.
Condict Billings.
here. Minutes, September 5th.
Make a motion, we accept?
Second. Any second and any discussion?
Yes.
Or additions?
I made the motion, not Peter's office, on the accepting of up there to across the street from the new gas station, the restaurant. Can't think of names at the moment.
Yeah, 3 Corner Bridge, 3 Bridge Road.
Yep.
Where is that, boy?
Let me get back into it. Page 2 or 3.
Oh, page 2, motion by Zavas to accept
Yep.
the application. I believe it was the other way around.
Yeah, it was the other way. I made the motion.
Mr. St. Jean is here. I will raise him to current status in Bob Gillette's place. Any other corrections?
I didn't see any myself.
Call for a vote. All those in favor of approving the minutes? All those opposed?
Stand or as corrected, as
As
amended.
corrected. Financial. You're working again for no money, huh? You're working again for no money?
Yep.
Okay. Rick,
Yep. Oh.
can we make a motion to take the money out of Lakes Region Planning and put it into salaries and this is on the present budget, not the future.
Try it again, Tony. You want to do what?
Lakes Region Planning,
Yep,
On the present
on the
budget.
present budget,
yep.
can we move that into salaries and FICA and Medicare?
No, but there's no need to.
Okay.
What what is happening is, and we know that the planning board secretary wages are over. We knew that was probably going to happen by way of history, and I mean, certainly you remember it, but picking out the hours was kind of pulling a rabbit out of the air. The previous secretary has donated an awful lot of time, and we're still trying to get a handle on how many hours the job actually takes. This year was not a great year for that to be our microcosm, because with all that went on with Westwood Shores and all the different hearings, et cetera, it's obviously skewed those numbers. The mere fact that that money is in fact sitting there from Lake Region Planning Commission will just allow her to continue to be paid, and we will not go over the bottom line. But there is no need to transfer, and I would submit it would probably be inappropriate to do so. So just keep it going just the way it is, and we'll obviously try to take what information we've gathered this year when we formulate how many hours we think she needs next year.
So present budget, I say we okay on. Workshop budget for 17-18. I think we should increase the secretary's salary to $10,000.
What's the present length?
With the FICA and Medicare up to proportionately. Yeah.
If he's already used up what's here,
Well, we used $7,300,
we're in September, we got 3 months to
we're
go.
already $1,280 over.
I don't think 10's gonna be enough. I think next year's gonna be just as bad as this year personally. We're booming. I think we're gonna have to go to about 12. If it's left over, it's better than being short.
What I might suggest is to go ahead and recommend the 10. This is one of those budgets, and because her salaries are currently split between all three boards, obviously the planning board has consumed a majority of her time this year, and that may in fact continue.
I think it will
This
next
year,
year
and
personally.
it may continue, but what I might suggest is that you recommend, as far as your budget, doing it to 10. And by the end of the year, if we feel that it needs to be adjusted, we've got plenty of time to adjust it, all the way up to, in fact, town meeting to adjust it.
Yeah.
So if we did it
That
at 10,
sounds
and
reasonable.
then see where we are at the end of the year.
That makes sense, yeah. That makes sense. Is that a motion, Connie?
Yeah,
I'll second that.
and that, we don't know how to figure the FICA and the Medicare, we'll have to leave that to.
I would leave that, and then if you see Karen, she can, it's just a multiplier of the
Right.
rate, so.
So we'll ask Karen to do a thing. Telephone will be the same, which would be $550.
Advertising should be about the same, huh?
Office supplies should be the same.
Do we need to vote on that motion or do it all at once?
We can do it all at once.
Okay.
Are we still in discussion mode here, Connie?
Go ahead.
I just think since we're kind of maxed out on all of our line items here, maybe what we do, as Rick said, revisit all of these at the end of the year, just to get a better handle on what,
Well, we have,
You don't, because you have hearing coming up in October to present it
The
to
planning
the
budget's
budget
supposed to
committee.
be,
okay.
So you've got to start discussing the budget.
I see what you're saying, right?
I mean, we're,
you're actually right on track.
Right.
With the exception of the salary and the FICA, which we're
Yeah.
already gonna correct. And I might also suggest, given what went on this year, and the selectmen's agreement, that I think you can simply remove the $4,500 from the planning board in the future when it comes to the
well, I mean,
Ingredient?
Lakes region.
are the selectmen going to do it out of your budget?
Correct.
Okay.
Oh.
So if you remove the $4,500 right out of the planning board budget, You're actually, even increasing it to $10,000, you're gonna be a little less than last year.
Right,
So,
I would say the rest of them, advertising is pretty much prepaid. We'll leave that at 2,000.
So we never do any computer software, is that the selectmen's job, or how's that work?
The what?
Computer and software, that selectmen have to
No,
take that
that's
for
not.
us? How does that work?
Whatever Laura needs. No, it comes out of your,
I think we've done it on the government buildings.
yeah.
I think that's what it's at, I don't remember ever seeing it
Yeah,
on
it
it.
got
No, we-
changed last
we've had
year
it.
out of it.
That's what it was.
We've had it.
So in all essence, that line item should be removed.
I remember I used to have one there.
Laura,
Just take it
what
right out.
was the $8.33 on professional? The only, I question that because we only, approved $4,500.
Sounds like a problem.
How
Vote's lost.
much? How much?
It's 450803,
Right.
and we only approved $4,500. So it was $8.30 that to ask Karen about,
Yeah, I don't know.
okay? I would say 5,000 would be all right, professionals. Education, we'll leave 500. Mileage is 250. And 1,500 for postage, which is reimbursed anyways.
But it's working either way.
So I make a motion that we approve a salary of 10,000 for the secretary with FICA, Medicare proportionately applied. Telephone would be $550 a year. Advertising would be $2,000. Office supplies would be $500. Postage would be $1,500. Mileage $250. Education $500. Professional fees $5,000. Lakes Region 0, and computer and software 0.
Second.
Mr. Chairman, just one correction to your term. She's not salaried, so it's the wages.
The wages.
And I don't mean to sound
Well,
funny,
I
but
mean-
there is a legal difference.
Big.
Right.
There is a difference, yes.
Okay.
Salary should be working all of ours for nothing.
So,
I second Connie's motion.
Roy seconded that.
Oh, I didn't
I'm
hear
just
that
trying
part.
to, we can't do a bottom pick line, so,
Not till it's up to Karen.
right. Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries. I will get it with Karen tomorrow. Monday the 30th, okay. I don't have Sager's bill yet. Sager and Smith PLLC is $437.50 for Henderson's Planning Board meeting concerning Hobbs and Moss Pit. Make a motion that we approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Those in favor? Motion carries. Statement's the same for Morse Pit. Budget schedule we've already gone through. Unsatisfied conditions, anyone have any questions on them tonight? They're all on,
Third page.
Westwood Shores, which is 1, 2, 3, 4. We've received a letter. Did you, on your telephone call, Rick, did you discuss the 4,500 they owe us?
Did not.
Okay.
The Board of Selectmen have now had 2 telephone conferences with the owners of Western Shores, Northgate, out in Michigan. But both of those calls have been regarding bringing the old portion of the campground into compliance with the FEMA rules. We have had 0 discussion with them regarding anything to do with the new side, because quite frankly, that's your area, not ours.
I had asked no one to speak to them because it hadn't been paid, they hadn't been billed.
Our only communication with them is regarding the old section. I will tell you that there is another meeting coming up, we think in about a month,
Yeah.
where the owners are going to be here from Michigan. And we're trying to facilitate a meeting on site with FEMA, Office of State Planning, us and the owners, and try to get to the bottom of what they need to do to bring the old portion of the campground into compliance.
Make a motion that we resubmit a bill to Northgate with a CHC to their engineers for $4,500 for professional fees for Westgate.
I'll second that.
Discussion.
I wasn't here when that went through. There's a $4,500 balance due to the board?
Yes,
Okay.
they agreed to it.
Okay, you had to have an independent.
They have an independent, Jones and Beach,
Okay.
Beach and Jones. And Beach and Jones wanted to charge us $6,100, and we said, no, we only chose, you told us $4,500, we accepted your bid. And it came out that we paid them $4,500.
Okay.
So now we've got to collect it from
That's
Northgate.
okay. Thank you.
Have a motion, any more discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries. Mr. Lord, you wish to speak to us?
I can't hear you.
I know that. Have Lindsay talk then.
You can talk, you can't hear.
Reason we're here is obviously my daughters have the Kindness Animal Hospital. Trying to put on a 196 square feet, which is roughly 14 by 14. I've submitted the application to to Mr. McConaty. He informs me that because of recent dealings, it has to have the amendment to the site review. I initially asked for a hearing, an informal hearing, because I couldn't find the amendment. I went onto the website and it wasn't on there. And so I started to fill out the minor application. I was in the town hall doing, getting paperwork, and the girl was able to find, apparently it's just got hit the website. So I found the actual application that says amendment. I just have a couple quick questions. I've talked to Mr. McConaty at length about this, and it says in here that you hit NA for anything that we think that doesn't apply. And obviously we want to do this correct the first time. My question is a lot of the things that, such as DES approval, the driveway, the septic, the water, that's all been done. Everything's all in place. So can I assume that's non-applicable on that?
If you,
The only couple of questions I had is, and I didn't know if the abutter notification had to be done, because I thought it was further than it should be, but regardless, we made them out anyway for you, so we can give you those too. But in here it says payment and fees, we don't know what that is, obviously. And it says 5 copies, 24 by 36, 1 inch to 20 feet scale for the diagram. It's 14 feet, that would be about a 5/8 inch block by 5/8 block. So I didn't provide one, but he has photographs of the building with the description, layout, the whole thing. Will that be sufficient? Because if I did it, and I did draw a design in here, you know, I just over the 1 to 20 feet. It's just a quick design.
Let me see stuff.
What's that?
Francis.
Because it was 1 inch for 20 feet, it'd be 5/8 by 5/8.
Let's do it. Wait a minute, just let Roy and I go over this, Roy.
And you can pull this out here, this is just a map.
Here we, well,
And I made 11 copies for you. One thing that wasn't checked, which Ms. McConerty checked on today, was the fire department, and they apparently have no interest in it, but would like just to have something on file.
this payment, we have a fee schedule.
Yeah.
Separate,
I don't know what it is.
Laura can,
Yep, she gives it to me, give it a check.
When you bring all your
Yeah.
application and your drawings and everything
Yeah.
into me, that's when I would go over it with you.
I don't know what that means.
that's, Laura will go over that with him so he can write the check. But it's on the website, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. It's on the website, Francis.
Was that the price?
The prices of
Okay.
everything.
And again, this copy, there's a design in here, but
Yeah, well,
So this is kind of an informal site plan, or is this?
yeah, this is an informal. We're just trying to make sure that he can get this through, and
Yeah. Does he have to have any type of plan we have to sign?
yes, he does.
Let's see, he didn't have the signature block that he checked off here.
That's why this has to be done.
Yeah, that'll have to be done.
I don't know what that is.
You have,
It's just a place for the chairman.
do we have his old site plan?
And this one I just found out about today, he's not interested, I just know it's there.
Funny.
And that is on here, Connie.
No, this is the original site
I
plan.
think this is it here.
Okay,
I included that along with, this is, one is with the building and one is without.
where do you want to put your addition?
Let me see, where are we? Right here. Right here.
It's right behind Huggins, huh?
That's it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Dr. Sibyl's office. So
This
there's
is
no
the driveway in
setbacks.
for 171.
Yeah, you have no setbacks.
Yeah, hospital and hospital.
So he's good there.
Beach field, cemetery,
His septic's where?
plenty
Over
of,
here, so he's fine. 28.
Oh,
well.
this is.
It's on 171. You know where the doctor's office is, at the corner of 28 and 171?
That's,
Right behind that. You take the right and you go past it
Yeah.
on the left.
Okay, all right.
It's a long driveway, so you can't see the building from the road.
Yeah, I had in my mind, I was thinking West Hospital.
signage is out here.
No. I think Roy's talking
Well,
about where
where
you
we
two would
sign.
sign.
He'll need to put a block in.
We can sign it up here. Just make a block there.
Signature block, that's all.
Laura,
Anywhere it's out of the way.
You want them on every one of them?
just, yeah,
How many copies, 4 or 5? Five. Five copies need a block.
Okay.
5 copies.
Oh,
We'll need a block. Signature block, 5 copies.
5 copies?
Yeah, 5 copies, we need a signature block. We have to sign 5.
So
Okay.
this map right
Because
here,
I'm submitting 11 of these.
no, well, that's fine. But you have to get a letter from the chief, regardless of whether, just saying that he's okay with what is going on, that's all.
Just for our files.
Well, it's for his benefit too,
Yep.
because then the chief says, well, you can go ahead and do it. And everything else, I mean,
Okay, as long as
do
it's-
you have, yeah, you've got the deed, so,
You got the deed, he's got, what I did is, I put in, we did that, this is a letter of intent that you're
Yeah.
looking for,
yeah,
and you have the building design, just a
Right.
quick design of it. And this is showing her ownership,
yeah,
and then you asked for the zoning, which is it's a commercial. These are the list of the butters and all their ID
well, you don't
cards.
have to do the
I
ID
don't
card.
know.
So that's the only things that I will give this back to you.
So the chief, I can take care of that.
Payment, which Laura, you'll see Laura. Everything else,
I think you got everything else.
Yeah,
Down to
just
the
this
fire
one.
department. Just those 3 major
Those 3
things
things.
left. Just those 3 things left.
Okay. All right, as long as I know, that's all we
Lindsay.
needed.
Yes, sir.
Did you hear that?
So you need a letter from the fire chief, you need 5 separate copies with a signature block on it, and the payment schedule.
The signature block has to be on that map.
Yes,
Yes.
it has to be,
And then I can drop it off to you. Thank you. That's all we
Bring
need.
it to me.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in.
Sorry, can I ask a point of order?
yes, Chuck.
Shouldn't the rest of the, sorry, but it's your meeting, but shouldn't the board have been privy to the rest of the information that was in the packets?
We get you.
Well, no, it was the 2 of you guys that did that.
This is an informal discussion, and they're gonna have to present the actual packets to us.
No, I get it, but in some of the informals I've seen, the board was open to the rest of the information.
Yes, the rest of them.
You've got the copy, that one. This one here. No, you got the one I gave on the application.
Do you each want one?
You already looked at it.
I've already looked at it, Lindsay, thank you.
Thank you.
Would you wait a minute, Lindsay, let them look that over quick.
This is all now, you want those to go on after? You got the original?
Yeah.
All good?
They're gonna review it.
You didn't hear from Jim today? Jim O'Mara.
So Rise must have just moved in up there recently. Thought we were going way up there. So I got leave him, I take it back.
Tim, you got questions?
Nope.
Dennis?
Not yet, haven't seen anything.
Questions? Rick?
They gotta, there's one more abutter they gotta notify, one across the street, just to keep you from getting screwed up. You have to notify anybody within 200 feet of your property line, and that includes across the street.
I think you, I was thinking,
What is that property?
No, 200 feet. Down, 200 feet from your boundary line. Not from the building, from your boundary line.
Across the town road, like down here, you gotta tell the people on the other side of the road, so.
When Toby changed the trailer,
Right there.
they had to notify the fire department. Because they were in the butter.
I suspect they're all for it. Safer building.
Isn't it just sold? No.
Dennis, question? Steve, you all set?
Yeah.
I guess you're all set other than that the four things.
So the letter from the chief, the signature block on 5 different copies, the fee schedule, and we'll notify the abutter on the other side of the street,
It's 200 feet from your boundary line.
which is the road end as well.
It doesn't matter if you're across the road.
Across the road, a radius. Okay.
Awesome, thank
I
you.
am. Thank
Lindsay,
you.
when you have everything
Let's grab that
together,
copy.
just bring it to me. I send the abutter letters out.
Okay. Okay.
That way, we give everybody there.
Okay. And so then once we meet, this would get passed and approved or not, rather.
What will happen is I will add you to the agenda.
Okay.
You'll get a letter from me as well as your abutters letting you know when the hearing is gonna be. And then you come before the board, present your
Okay.
plans, and go from there.
We good?
Do you have any other questions?
No, oh good.
Okay, thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you for your time, appreciate it.
See you the next time.
Thank you.
Green Mountain Treatment. Step right up, sir. I'm gonna put Valley Point Path last.
How you doing? My name's Jeff Bird, RJP Engineering. So we're here for discussion. I brought some copies of a plan that I have. Can I pass them out?
Yes, sir.
I don't know what your protocol is here.
No, we pass them out.
Okay.
How many do you have?
I only brought 4.
Well,
That would be enough.
give Peter one, we'll
Two
share.
there.
We can share.
I should have probably brought a few more.
Watch the run away, Con.
That's why I sit over here, I don't like sharing. Thank you.
One way man.
Take that side, please.
What's that?
Can you just take that side?
Main Street.
Go ahead, sir.
Where are we at?
So we did an updated survey.
That's the big house.
Steve suggested that we needed an updated site plan on this site. This was a treatment center in the past. It was closed
never-
down. What's that?
We never had a site plan on it
Right,
to begin
right,
with.
right.
And
So
it is going to be a commercial
it's gonna,
entity.
it's gonna be a continuation of the previous use.
No, that has been closed for almost 2 years.
Yeah,
So, you have to have the original site plan, because there was never a site plan on that property.
right.
And you're not changing the use, but you have a 2-year limitation. If it's empty for 2 years,
Okay,
that's why I say you have to go this route.
okay. So do we have to go then through the formal hearing process?
Yes,
with
sir.
this? We do?
Yes, sir,
Okay.
because we've never had one.
Yeah,
And you are a commercial or hire, which under our site plan regulations, you are required to have a site plan.
okay. They're not adding any buildings, you know,
No.
they're not adding anything to the site, no
closed
no
barn.
parking or, everything's pretty much gonna stay the way it is. So it'd be, what it is an existing conditions plan, really, you know, of the existing facility. And I'd bring that in for hearing.
With a signature block on there for
Okay.
approval,
Yep,
as you go down through, your parking is based on square footage of the building. That is on town water and sewer, correct?
yes.
As far as the site plan, we only control the outside. What you do on the inside is that gentleman's right there in the fire chiefs.
Yep. And we met with them last week, so we know what we have to do inside. Yep.
But you still have to have the formal because nobody's ever had one.
Yeah. So just looking at the drawing, I mean, do you, what process do you go through to review the plan, or if any, or, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, this plan is complete, as complete as I would make it. I'd submit it as is and put my rubber stamp on it for my license, and unless.
You have no parking designated,
Lighting.
lighting, which shall be downcast, is all explained in the site plan.
There is no signature block.
Yeah, the signature block, I have that.
Right there. Site plan regulations.
Yeah, I've been through them.
Okay.
So,
You have to have your checklist, the deeds, etc.
okay,
Whatever is, right off the top of my head, I don't know all of them.
yeah.
And you, like you say, you have no designated parking. You have to have your handicap. Your parking is based on square footage of the building.
Mr. Chairman? Is there a what he was saying, and I don't know that there's, maybe they're not two different things. He's suggesting that this is an existing condition
But it-
plan. Let me finish. I realize what you're saying is that there was never a formal site plan review
Right.
before. But everybody knows that this was the Vic House for High Watch for, and then Lakeview
Right.
Neuro. Would the planning board now, under this site plan, as a for instance, require more parking than what the Vic House had for the same purpose?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. He has to,
Have the codes changed? Is that what we're talking about?
no. Not as far as our site plan reviews go.
There was
This
never a
adopted
site
in
plan approved for that.
2007. Just a moment, Joe. I'll
No,
let you
no,
speak.
yeah, go
And then, you know, after the 2 years, you lose the grandfather
That's
status.
the precedent.
But there was never a site plan on this. So there was never any designated parking, et
Okay.
cetera, et cetera.
So we just go by the numbers on the regs for that? and-
Correct.
all right.
Everything is in the regs.
Okay.
The checklist is easy, like Francis was here, down through it. You have to have a copy of the deed, a letter from the fire chief that, you know,
Well, we got some more.
that you're complying, et cetera. So that he has enough, basically, he has enough room to get the fire trucks in there. Yes, Joe?
Would you mind if I just add to the sentence that hasn't been said, and I think it'll explain it to them? The 2 years, and it used to be 1 year, I don't know if it changed, but the moment that any property sits vacant or hasn't been doing what it's been doing for X amount of time, whatever that is, it automatically reverts back to what it originally was before it was granted whatever access it was. So it's in a village district, so it would be, well, I believe its original use was a home, right? So it's back to a house,
This loses
if it hasn't been
status
used.
after 2 years,
Yeah.
so. And very quickly,
What's this approximate septic area? I'm not sure what that means. There's,
I think is there a septic system?
No, that's town water and town sewer.
Oh, okay.
I might want to look at that and
Yeah.
get rid of that.
The thing about the parking, that's in the site plan regulations. So it depends on what we're designating this as a use as. I guess it's some kind of convalescent home or whatever, which is in the site plan regulations, but they only need, for their business, they need 2 spaces, basically. One for an employee and one for a visitor. So I don't know if we, in there it's per square foot, so many per square foot. Can we get a waiver on that instead of adding spaces, and just go with the 2 parking spaces?
You can ask for
You,
it.
what are you classifying this as? Under
Well,
our
that's the
regulations?
question.
Under our regulations? A rest home, nursing home?
I mean, the chief the other day, he called it, I have it on this convalescent. Board and care, so, which is basically what it is.
What is it?
Board and care, it's in the second note on the drawing. But I don't know, that's not
Oh,
a designated
that
use.
that isn't one of our classifications.
No. So we need to be sure
So
which one.
you're either going to have a multi-family residence, or a rest home, nursing home. You wouldn't follow under, yeah.
Well, I guess we're gonna make that determination. Would we make that determination?
Is it rehab type thing, or?
Yeah, but how does that fit into our,
Doesn't. We don't have a classification for that. I would say it comes under a rest home, nursing home.
Yeah, there won't be any services.
Isn't that a rehab up in
there.
Moultonville?
it's a respite,
But we
Nursing
haven't
care.
done that one either.
was before zoning, probably.
Yeah, went in before zoning too?
I believe so.
It's in the other house.
That's been there
Okay,
It's been there a long
20
time.
30 years.
yeah, that's true.
Yeah, sorry.
Can I ask what the use is gonna be? I haven't,
It's gonna be same as it was for High Watch, except that, from what I understand, they're not medicated by a nurse, they're self-medicated.
That's correct.
so there's gonna be a bunch of people staying there?
Yes,
This would, under the zoning, can I suggest? And then you can look at it. I would think this would be termed as a group home, most likely. Is it old people, young people?
It's all ages,
Well,
adults.
you're talking under the ordinances?
Yeah,
Okay.
because this would be an institutional use. So you have convalescent, it wouldn't be essential services, because that would be municipal. Group home, and that's it, really.
This is the village district, so. you list yourself as a convalescent home, it is permitted under the village. A group home is a special exception, so you'd have to go to the ZBA, so. Would anyone like to put forth a definition for them? This board would like to call that home.
I think probably convalescent would work,
Yeah.
would be my opinion.
It goes hand in hand with their treatment facility at
Absolutely.
Green Mountain. It
That's
seems to
what
me
I
to,
think.
Care facility.
So it's permitted under that.
Right.
So
Want to make a motion for that? We need to do this informal, right?
this is an informal, so
So,
we can,
okay.
we're just having, advising you.
Yeah.
So you're saying, Connie, in his formal application, he wants to identify the facility as a convalescent home?
If that's what he so desires, to
Right.
have a convalescent home instead of a group home, which is a special exception.
Right, in village.
So he would have to go to the ZBA and get a special exception.
I would think a group home would be more for permanent type living quarters, you know, long-term living
Right,
quarters.
right.
They also usually typically provide services inside those homes.
Yes, Joe?
Okay, do you want the definitions?
Go ahead.
The town definition. Convalescent home, well, I guess it would be nice to know what, well, I think to help them to find out what they really want to be is to find out what they're really going to do. And then the convalescent home is a building where 3 or more infirm or aged persons are housed for compensation and licensed by the state of New Hampshire, including a convalescent hospital, home for the aged, rest homes, and similar uses. Group home, a facility where a operator is not legally related to the individuals, supervised and is licensed by the state or within. B, 1 or more individuals is provided with room, board, specialized and distinctive care and supervision in a family environment, or where 5 or more individuals reside and are provided with food, board, ordinary care, and supervision in a family environment.
It's not the second one, because reside describes that as being a residence, and these are not residents, correct?
Correct.
What would be the
Short
average
term.
term of stay?
1 month,
Okay.
it's transition.
Transition.
It's like a step down.
Yeah.
I don't think either one of them are great, but
No,
but
but
the
I
first
think-
one's better than the second one.
Yeah.
No prepared meals.
First one doesn't require any special exemption.
No.
They cook for themselves and everything?
Except
All
the
right.
first one.
And self-medicate, everything's,
Right.
they're all, do everything by themselves.
And then later-
Now, very quickly, I was looking at the 16 patients. Now, they're not gonna drive,
No,
more than likely? No.
that's correct.
Okay, so no driving, so,
No driving
again,
of cars, they'll be transported,
What about
our vehicles.
No visitation?
It's staggered, I mean, we don't let, like, just, it's not at large. It has to be scheduled, it has to be 1 or 2 persons, it's brief. It's, so families can see where they live, essentially.
I'm sorry, but as a resident of the town, I mean, you're looking at the definition of the convalescent home. You're calling this a convalescent home right now as your discussion? It's talking about aged and infirmed. These people aren't infirmed, apparently, if they're only staying for a month. Convalescent homes is a home where elderly people tend to stay for long periods of
I
time.
disagree. I think that if they're in rehab, they are in fact infirmed by definition.
It says we're similar uses. You read it earlier.
But that's also, it's a convalescent hospital, home for the aged, rest homes with similar uses. I mean,
Similar uses. This is similar.
I think we're trying to find the best fit for these gentlemen without making them go through the process of having to go to the ZBA and jump through a lot of unnecessary hoops. So,
And I believe,
as long as the board shares that with everybody else, I mean.
I think between the two definitions, Joe, correct me if I'm wrong, and I think when it talks about similar uses, I mean, we have a very limited number of definitions. that we're trying to fit where this fits best. I don't think either one is great, but I definitely think it's much more under the convalescence than it is under the definition of group home.
Right.
And I think the or similar uses, I agree with you, when it talks about aged or infirm, these are not aged, but I think that Tim's point is,
Right.
they are infirm, that they're for part of a treatment or a 28-day transition. It's certainly not long-term. Is anybody gonna be there more than 30 days?
No, I mean, it's
No.
designed to be the step down from primary treatment into independent living.
Right.
So, what kind of patients are we talking about? I mean, we talking, drug
Drug and alcohol.
rehabilitation,
Recovery,
alcohol,
yes.
injury, someone, serious
Drug and
car
alcohol.
accident, or
Drug and
rehab,
alcohol.
that type of rehab too? So
No.
it's a multi-purpose type,
No, we're a substance use disorder
oh,
treatment
it's
center.
just substance abuse? Okay. So you're rehabbing the people?
What's that?
You're rehabbing the
Yes.
people?
The actual
Whatever we have.
rehab is occurring at the old
Right,
Lakeview.
but they're still convalescent, rehabbing, and this is one step in
Correct.
that process.
That's right.
Right.
So, to me, it's a convalescent home.
Right.
That's how I interpret it.
I agree.
I think it's a better definition of the second one. I don't know that either one of them are
I think
perfect.
when I think of a.
agree with you.
Until wordage is changed within the regulations or the zoning ordinances to account for these kind of facilities in the
Right.
town, you gotta pick the best one.
Right, and we can't call it a group home because in fact, these are not residents.
What was there a determination or was there a site plan review on the whiteboards? On the,
White Horse never came to us for
I don't
residential.
think they house it.
They only came to us for a office and rehab center.
okay.
And they were not, nobody, as far as I remember, Rick, no one was going to be there as a patient,
Okay.
other than.
I was just wondering if there was anything that might have helped you with,
All right, anything else you have to say, sir?
This is just a definition. A rehab facility, unlike nursing homes, which are residential in nature, rehab facilities provide specialized medical care and/or rehabilitation services to injured, sick, or disabled patients. Some services offered include speech therapy and physical rehab. So, I just whatever.
None of those things you just described will be occurring on that property. It's where they're living. All the services are provided at Green Mountain Treatment Center.
I mean, I'm not against any business coming into town, honest to God. I own one. But the definitions sometimes get a little blurry.
People draw them up, they don't allow for everything, sometimes they don't think of them. So when we get in the gray area, we've got to do the best we can to fit the best one we got. And we're here to help the people, not mess them over.
well, I think the key words in that whole thing, in the definition that Joe read, was or similar uses.
Right.
Yes.
And I think this is, in fairness, as similar as you're going to get within those definitions. I think it is a similar use.
It's the only framework we got.
Well, that's the whole reason you put that language in there.
Right.
Is because who knows what's gonna happen in 5 years or 2 years or,
Anything else you?
The parking is calculated per square foot. And we get, all they need really is 2 or 3 spaces, one for the employee that manages a place, and another one for visitors. If the calculations come up to more than that, can we ask for a waiver? Would you entertain that?
Yes, well, we'll entertain any waiver that you come across on that checklist,
Okay.
as long as you,
But you should have plenty of parking there. I mean, that circular, I think
It's a
it's,
circle drive
there's-
that
I
you
think-
gotta stay clear of.
right.
There's
You've
an
got
area
to-
in front of the barn and.
You gotta make sure that the fire engine and the ambulance can get in there. Because they did have quite a few fire calls there previously.
That population was.
No, it was most of them were, was somebody,
there was a lot of burnt toast.
yeah. There was a lot of hard calls, right.
A lot of fire alarm activation.
We're gonna have occasional toast burn, but,
Well, if I go,
They didn't like preparing their own meals.
and if you are gonna ask for a waiver, maybe, designate quite a few parking spaces, like,
Yeah,
Yeah, give them one, yeah. Just in case somebody's coming up.
But is there
This one's make sure you have current. What you do is you either do labels, and I do those instructions are all. I am here Tuesdays and Wednesdays from 3 to 8, or until the meeting ends. And then Thursdays, I'm here in the mornings from technically 9 to 1. So if you give me a call during those hours, I can make arrangements with you.
Does it go by,
3 to 8.
by square footage of floors or of the overall building?
No, I'm here for meetings at night.
Gross floor area. Yeah. It depends on which, because some of them talk about gross floor area, some of them.
Yes, you may. All your instructions are in there as well.
So that was saying, that's
Thank you very much for coming in. I hope we can make everything work for you. But I think Verizon Retail. This is an informal discussion,
Yes, sir.
non-binding on either part.
Excuse me, sir?
This is a non-binding, an informal discussion, non-binding on either party.
Yes. Well, I appreciate you guys hearing us. And speaking with Steve, he thought it was a good idea for us to come in and explain a little bit about what we're trying to do and what we did. My name's David Poulin. I've been in business here in West Ossipee and Ossipee for 19 years. I own the H&R Block. I was across from the Pizza Barn for a while, and then I'm over here at the end of Mount Plaza. And now we're gonna get over there to the O'Keefe building, do some retail taxes, and I also own the Verizon Wireless store. It's been here for 10 years. We own 7 Verizon Wireless stores and 4 H&R Blocks in our company. This is Brian Albert, he's my general manager. He runs all of them for me. And what I have here, if it's okay to hand out some papers, I got my business cards. I have a picture of the O'Keefes, and also I can go over it with you, but a picture of what the building should look like after. And then also behind that, you're gonna see pictures of buildings I've done that I've turned into places like O'Keefe's and turned into Verizon stores. I have this picture here also for, that just shows, yeah, want to hand those up? Just keep them for me. This picture here is just what we did in Lancaster. I don't know if you're familiar with Lancaster, New Hampshire. We bought the Sunoco building right across from McDonald's. It was a beaten up place, and we turned it into a Verizon store. I don't know if you can pass that around too. But there's also, you'll see some pictures in there. But just to show you the kind of work we've been doing up there and with our company. There you go. We have, and on my business card, if you look at the back, those will tell you the 7 locations of the stores that we own. I'll tell you where we're at. Our intention is to move from the Indian Mountain Plaza, put our H&R Block in the front section of the O'Keefe's. The bigger section is going to be the Verizon store. The part of the building where you kind of, you know, it's too long and it kind of sinks into the ground. There's a section there about 40-something feet we're going to cut off.
Where the building is settled.
Yes, that's going to be gone.
Many years ago.
Yeah, we're going to get rid of that so everything's level, do some groundwork, retar, and set it up. So,
And then you're gonna remove the overhanging,
turn to page 2.
yeah, I see that.
Yeah, she's going to be gone. Yeah, that's, you know, that's not our style, so.
You buy it or lease it?
We bought it, I bought it, yeah.
Now, where's these, now you say you're gonna have two separate businesses in here?
On the back, one of the pages, and I apologize, if you look through what I gave you guys, you're gonna see the Verizon exterior.
Yeah.
You're gonna see the Verizon interior, which is the, kind of the way the store's gonna look inside.
Right.
And if you look at the back part of that staple thing, you're gonna see this thing? I apologize, but that's gonna be the face of H&R Block.
Oh, on the end of the building
Yes.
facing the,
When you drive into the parking lot, you know, when you turn in on that road and you turn into the parking lot, you're gonna be facing H&R
facing the
Block.
Frito-Lay building and all of that.
And then when you turn into where the O'Keefe's building, it's gonna be like this.
Okay.
2 Portland glass windows, Portland glass door, some overhang, nice awnings.
Right.
No, actually, we're probably not even gonna have a sign. We're just gonna have our awning, and I have green blocks that, you see the Indian Mount Plaza?
Yep.
I put those in the windows, that's enough. And of course, we have the road signs, which will stay the same. We're not really changing anything as far as the exterior of the building. And that's pretty much it.
You are changing it because you're cutting it down.
Yeah, it's gonna make it smaller, yes.
Are you gonna maintain the 360-degree access around the building?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Yeah, and you'll see in the back through this staple one, this is a building I bought up in Berlin, and just kind of what we did with that one. You can see some of the, we're not bragging, we just want to show you guys what we're gonna do to, you know, the current facility and what it's gonna look like. Because I know, you know, I was a councilman up there in Berlin for 6 years, and
It's quite
it
a
was always
job.
nice to see. You
You
know?
took the telephone pole on
Yeah.
the second one.
What's that?
Wireless,
All underground.
Yeah, it's quite the endeavor. We,
Well, certainly a building that needs a little love.
yes, it did. We're gonna be putting $100,000+ in that building. And not to mention the inserts, you know, the materials that go into, for the Verizon store, like 30, 40 grand. The H&R Block, now I'm moving, have to put all new desk and new everything. They're new, and these corporations always want the newest, to get these new build-outs. And, so it's quite the costly,
And you
but it's gonna be
obviously
beautiful.
will be closing the stores in India now.
Yeah, you know, unfortunately, hopefully you get somebody else in there.
They've been very
Yeah.
successful down on the end.
Yeah, I know, we know them guys, they're nice people. It's just, you know, I was across from the pizza barn for 9 years, down in the hole there before it burnt.
Yeah.
And I thought maybe, you know, localized, like a grocery center, and, you know, there'd be more of a hub there. You know, I thought, hey, why not, we'll try it out. And it's cool the way we have set up it there. It's one unit, but it's divided in two when you go inside. So it worked for me, you know, because we got into the Verizon business afterwards. So I had to find a place, and that worked cool.
You're just looking for more square footage is what the issue is.
We, basically, you know, I'm
Visibility of
I'm the owner.
Yeah.
I'm the owner, but everyone has a boss, you know, Verizon tells me, you gotta be on Route 16.
Right.
You know, they know their traffic counts, they know what they want. Either I play ball with them or I don't stick around, so
Yep.
that's kind of more of the reason, yeah.
First, I'm glad to see you gonna restore the old building.
Yeah, it's gonna be beautiful when it's done. You'll be proud of it.
Been
and
there
it's
as
gonna
long
be
as I
nice.
can remember.
Yeah, yeah, I think you guys will, it'll be a nice improvement anyways. I don't know if I have, you know, we should employ more people, which is cool, because now we got a bigger store, we have, over there we have 1 or 2 kind of sales counter type thing, over there we're expecting 4 or 5 we're putting in. So we're probably gonna pick up 2, 3 people looking, you know, manager and 3, 4 employees, H&R, we're picking up another extra person. You know, it's all in speculation of an improved flow, but that's cool for people around here.
Any other questions from the board?
Just what, you know, he's gonna do a full
Is he-
site plan, don't he?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I gotta do what?
a full site plan.
And I would need to do that for what? Isn't it because it's still retail and it's been less than 2 years that's been gone, or?
Never had a site plan.
So I'm responsible for creating one for the previous people?
No, you're gonna be going through the full site plan review, and part of that requirement is to get the actual plan itself, the site plan itself. But what you wanna do is look at the site plan review requirements.
Yeah,
You're changing the footprint.
And the
form.
checklist,
okay.
Even though you're making it smaller.
and if I might add, throw the checklist into your package, because that's good for us to look at to make sure you've got everything satisfied.
Okay. So I'll get one of those site plan packets.
You'll just-
Is that, thank you very much. What kind of, I mean, what plans do you need? Do you need?
It's all
plans or-
described in there.
Oh, it's,
Yeah, I don't wanna try to tell you what you do.
no,
and don't.
it's in there, that's what you guys will need for sure.
Oh,
How does the process work with you folks? Is
I
it,
don't think the neighbor across the street's a problem.
Nope.
You know.
Do I submit the
Steve,
plan?
you can walk them through on what they, as far as helping them.
Sure, I can help them with this.
So, that'll give you a face to go to.
Okay.
And answer any questions you have, if you, when you're going down through there, if you say, geez, I'm not sure I need to do this, talk with Steve.
Okay.
He'll guide you through getting the application ready, and I'm one of the selectmen. We want you here, you know, we want you to expand, we want you to be successful. And anything that we can do to help you in that process, we're ready and
Yeah, we've
want
done
it,
some of
so.
these before, so
Yep.
we'll get them done, and just give me a.
There is a certain amount of formality that is required because of the zoning, and that's that. I mean, it is what it is.
People
Like I said-
before you were going through the same thing, they,
No,
place was basically grandfathered because there were no.
But because
zoning
Steve is
ordinances.
full-time, he's available 5 days a week rather than trying to simply come back here once a month, you know, so
no, I,
work with Steve and he'll walk you through whatever it is you need to do.
Anything you need waivers for, we always entertain waivers if there's a good reason.
yeah.
So,
And I must say, this is a great reuse of this building. I live nearby.
It's a building that desperately needs
Yeah,
some love,
yeah.
and it would be wonderful to see it redone.
Yeah.
You
this
know, if
looks
you have a
great.
chance to see any of the other buildings we've done, it's on the back of the car, drive by and see it.
On the one hand, I hate to see
100%.
that Indian Mound Shopping Plaza seems to be
Yeah.
slowly, I hate to see that, and I hope that, you know, somebody else does come in for
Well,
those, but
the state wants to expand the liquor store.
the state wants to move the liquor store. So, they wanna be out on 16 too, so.
Kind of mantra.
Well, it is, you know, I mean, that's a sad but true part of it. I mean, everybody, you know, your
Well, I tried
visibility,
both.
your,
I
you
tried
know,
16, I went back and I'm going, you know.
when you talk about 40,000 cars a day going by your front door versus 3,000,
Ten cars
that's
a
not
day.
rocket science.
case in point, when they moved 16 and took it away from here, look what happened to our town.
You also should think about speaking with DOT, because next year, we're gonna have kind of a screw up there, because they're taking those two bridges up.
Yeah, that's not gonna be much of a screw up there.
No,
Oh,
from
wow.
my understanding, they are not going to use the south side of the bridges for staging, for replacing the bridges. It's all gonna be done on the north side of the river bridge.
It is, but they're also doing something that's gonna be really kind of amazing to watch.
Right, right.
In the sense that they're gonna build the new bridges alongside of the existing bridges, and then over a 24-hour period of time, slide the new
Right.
bridges into place.
Wow.
Yeah, they do.
Yep.
It'll be the first time it's been done in the state of New Hampshire, but, it's done around the world.
Yeah.
I hope they feel
First time in the state of New
It
Hampshire.
is. They're gonna completely build a new bridge
Yeah, no,
beside the existing one.
yeah.
And in a 24-hour period of time, tear down the old one, slide the new one
Yeah,
in.
I've actually seen the
Actually,
process,
it's
but I thought they did
It's
it
a
in the
little
state.
different than that. They're actually gonna go to single lane, because they have to build the abutments to support the new bridges.
Correct.
But. it's
they're not
going
gonna stop
I've
that.
seen it done down in the Philadelphia area, and it's quite an amazing project, but.
So,
We'll be ready for it. We can weather anything.
Well, at that point, the
We're
bridges will
pretty
be
resilient.
closed. and-
They're going to be using Newman Drew Road for it.
Okay.
actually, they're not using it, they're not using that as the advertised detour,
Right.
because the state is required to detour onto state roads.
Right.
So the advertised detour is going to be all the way out 25, up 153. So, that's the advertised.
No.
Yes,
So,
yes.
so, but we have,
There's
we
low
have,
limits on
yeah.
Newman Drew.
we have, the town has offered to the state that it certainly makes a whole lot more sense to use Newman Drew Road for that 24-hour period of
The
time.
traffic,
We'll
the
be
traffic
busy.
we have out here, they're gonna run them all.
We'll make sure we get a cell phone puppet.
Those
little mascot out there.
closures are going to occur on multiple weekends, so that's what they tell us anyway.
That would be nice.
We've been.
Just like the
We'll handle it.
Right, exactly.
Capitalize on it, go back.
However.
The other thing,
Yes, sir.
as a personal observation,
Yes, sir.
that you should petition Rice itself to get more power.
More
To get
service?
more power.
Yeah,
Service sucks there.
Because when I got through,
yeah.
after my son died,
Mhm.
trying to transfer 4 phone lines in your store,
Mhm.
my girls went to South Carolina with no phones because they were blocked. And you couldn't unblock them. They had to go to Verizon company store. And you have been, stuff that we used to do with you when you first opened. Walk in, no problem, get it done. No, we can't get it done. They've cut a lot of stuff away from you.
There's a lot of parameters to work inside that business and stuff
Yeah.
sometimes. Trust me, we try 100% to make everybody
I
do what we
understand
can,
that.
you know?
But
But
it took a call from Verizon manager after I, they do a survey.
Yeah.
What was the best, 1 to 10? 0. Didn't get one of the answers.
Well, thank you, that's what I wanted to
I'll
do.
tell you something. I'll tell you something, I got answers and I got
Connie's fault, you're
action.
gonna spend $100,000.
Thanks to Connie, might lose the franchise. Jeez, Connie, thanks, buddy.
I'm laughing, but I totally understand. You know, we're in these spots sometimes that we can't fight our way out with.
I know,
Because it's,
and
what we
I-
are is like H&R Block, we are a franchise, and H&R Block corporate stores. I pride myself on giving better service than the corporate stores, because we can usually do more stuff than they can.
Right.
But in some certain circumstances, when it comes to line blocks and things like that, again, there's half of the Verizon stores are like me, and then half are like the ones in Concord, the corporate. And they hold the purse strings, so a lot of times they'll do stuff like that. We fight tooth and nail all the time.
We-
We employ 60 people, and we deal with this sometimes.
And this, your girls fought like hell for me, I'll tell you that much. But 4.5 hours
Oh, really?
to transfer two phones to another line, account, open a new account, and cancel 2 lines. 4.5 hours and it still was not settled.
Yeah, there's something wrong with that.
And the girls in the office, they call this one and that one. Oh, they put us on with corporate say, well, you gotta do this, you gotta go to a corporate store. Nearest one is Rochester.
Oh, yeah.
Here it is, 7 o'clock at night, or 6 o'clock. How you gonna do it?
Tell you, Mr. Billings, we do everything we can possible.
Well, I appreciate it.
Because you know what, when people aren't happy, they don't come back, they don't spend no money, we don't stay in business, it's kind of like a circle, you know? So, trust me, if anything could have been done, we would.
Oh, I know that, but I mean, I'm just,
Because we're pretty aggressive in keeping our people happy, try.
if you could do something, push them.
I will give him a kick in the butt for it.
But it certainly looks like you have no opposition here.
Well, thank you guys. Well, like I said, I've been working in here 19 years in this
Nope.
community, and
Yeah.
I've never had a problem.
Now it's just a case of there are a certain number of hoops that you have to jump through,
Yeah.
a certain number of plans you have to submit. Steve will work with you on making sure that those are,
And I
give
totally
you
agree with
any
that.
advice and.
Yeah, we can get it done. Like I said, I was a councilman for 6 years in Berlin, so I was on that side of the desk and I've seen a lot of the stuff. So I'll make it as seamless and we'll do it quick. We'll get it in there and get the thing open, you know? So,
Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
all right, give my card if you have any questions for me, okay?
Thank you.
guys.
I'll be contacting public tomorrow, and I think Monday we're gonna go for a walk.
Okay.
Valley
Well,
Point.
didn't have it today.
Not today, not next Monday. Real nice.
Oh,
They wanted it today, they got the demo coming down.
yeah, that's cool. He's back there downstairs, taking the stuff out of the thing.
That's fine.
Yeah, awesome.
You got all-
Appreciate
Monday
it.
we'll be going down.
Okay, I'll tell him.
And I'll work with you, whatever.
Thank you, Brady. We're gonna read that whole thing, we'll get it done.
Sounds great, thanks.
That's the thick one.
All right, guys, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You know that fancy picture? Oh, didn't show you.
Oh, right there. Yeah, sorry, geez, I.
That's my pride, Joe, my manager, we got that.
We were gonna spend that last dollar.
Yeah.
We gotta hold on.
Oh, we hope it's not the last dollar.
The first dollar, actually.
I got another 99,990 to put in that building. I'm gonna keep this one.
No, Valley Point, Dennis. Which is thick. From Chad Hayes.
We have a series of emails that are stapled together from Chad Hayes.
And I will publicly acknowledge that what Mr. Gillette wrote here, other than the first part of it,
First paragraph.
I think it's best for the planning board chair, et cetera, for that. The rest of that should not have been in that email, and he should not have signed Ossipee Planning Board. He does not represent this planning board. And when he gets back, I will mention it again to him. You have a series of Laura sent to him the grant of the approval from the ZBA, and then the 13 conditions that we set.
And that's all he was asking for.
Yep. And he was very kind to send us, find the comments that were sent to the design engineer, which he did not have to do. Please understand that it's not customary for us to send out our design comments like this. And I had asked him when I called him, and spoke to him on a Friday when I got the email. And he said, well, you guys made it more stringent than ours. And when Laura came in on Tuesday, I had her send the conditions. As you can see, the flexible APT piping entry boots are not designed to use, so they have to change that. As you can see, these quite a few conditions which are not met, he is not going to issue the permit. Does anyone have any questions? And the high level alarm, Dennis, is on page 3,
Yep, I saw
number
that.
18.
Yep.
Some of them, and some of these that he is requesting would be under Kyle's purview, not the planning board's.
Do we need to change A or something?
Sorry.
It's a recommended change. You read the whole paragraph?
Yeah, I understand.
If it's one of our conditions, do we have to change that?
Wouldn't they have to change it once they can't get the DES permit? Then they're gonna have to come back with a proposal of how they're going to meet how they're gonna meet the DES standard.
Yeah, we forced them into this, and I was against it on this paragraph.
Well, no, I
understand
understand
that.
that, but they've gotta come in with what they're gonna do in the alternative that is permissible by DES.
They will have to come back in. And it's like the flexible PT pipe that they want to use. Once they change that, then they have to come back in for another site, for an amended site plan. And all of these would be covered under that amended site plan.
Is that how that typically works? These are all the conditions we identified and then some, right?
These are all the conditions which DES found was lacking.
Ah,
Vent location,
I got you. Above and
curbing,
beyond.
you know,
We went by the criteria we had to work with.
Right.
DES has got the
Right.
final say.
Right. And their criteria is obviously more stringent than ours is, obviously.
Well, we went by what we
In
had
some
with
instances.
them,
In
but-
some
Some-
instances.
some
Yeah.
is-
Others, it's reversed.
but see,
Right.
like the NFPA code, we don't control, Kyle does.
Yeah.
So that would come under Kyle. I mean, we're covered because we said all state local.
What part of this pending court decision? What's that about?
What, Dennis?
Pending court decision? Something has to be determined by the court?
What page are you referring to?
Under the unsatisfied conditions. I was just looking down through them again.
That's,
First one. What, that's North Gate, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
On the right. All right, that's already been taken care of, right?
That has been dismissed. Oh, we have never received officially a notification of that by the attorney.
So why they send this picture?
we should sue the town of Freedom for whatever it cost us.
He
Don't get
showed-
started.
I'd rather do it to Green Mountain Conservation who funded this.
Absolutely. Actually,
Now
Bob
get,
Gillette.
now get them going.
No,
That's reference.
don't get me going.
I like to sue them both. Then the victim from the state afterwards.
Okay, so how are we proceeding here? Is Valley Point coming back in? Have we heard anything from
Eventually,
them?
they are notified. I've spoken with Jim Rhines,
Okay.
Dennis Bouvard, whatever, how you pronounce
Is
his
he
name.
the engineer?
Bouvard
Okay.
is the engineer, and he has to respond to this. And then go to Jimmy and say, okay, I've responded, they've accepted it, this is what we gotta do to change the plan, then we come in for an amended plan to in front of us. This, I just had Laura do this so that the board understands what's going on.
Well, that's good that we have this document.
What's the date on this?
So the,
Last week,
So my guess is we're looking at middle of end of October if we see them.
maybe, I would say November.
so we haven't heard anything back. So these guys had no idea that those boots were not available for this type of piping?
When the way Mr. Hayes explained it to me was that after Dennis designed this system,
Mhm.
using the manufacturer's specs, they, and 2 or 3 other stations within the state, they started using them and found out the boots don't fit. So,
Right.
they can't use them on this flexible pipe.
Ugh.
So the manufacturer has to change. So that is one of the reasons, whether he can change using that flexible pipe, a boot that'll work, or they have to change the piping, we don't know yet.
Okay.
But that's the way it was explained to me,
So it's very possible the manufacturer might resolve this issue before they even,
correct. In the sign that he's got in the back there,
yes, I saw that. Who included that thing?
he did, that's Chad himself,
Who?
Chad Hayes,
Chad included that, okay.
he's the man,
At DESA.
land review engineer.
Yep.
And he had a comment someplace, I can't remember where it was, about the sign, because he had the sign on this email.
So there's nothing for the planning board to do on this now, you just gave it.
No,
Right.
no, just,
Just for information.
Good on the
I'm
next
just-
subject.
Good information.
what I'm trying to do is keep the board up to date as far as what's going on.
And how did Bob get in the middle of this and start sending emails back
I
and
would
forth?
say from,
His opposition and his involvement with the Green Mountain Conservation Group.
I also want
Well,
to,
he's got a signed Ossipee Planning Board here, which means he's representing every member on this board.
he's not. I also wish to extend my special, sincere thanks to Chuck Corliss and Michael for helping me understand. So, he went to them, to these two experts at DES, when we were doing Valley Point. So, this guy, Hayes, works with these two guys. Somehow, whether they CC'd to him everything Bob questioned about, or what, I don't know. You'll notice that the CCs go to Charles Corliss. So that's how we probably got it. Any other questions on this?
Let's move on, I think.
Okay. More spent. I'm gonna make a motion that we instruct Mr. Sager to return to court to have Morse Brothers, David Morse and Andrew Morse, to be held in contempt of court and forced to reclaim the Morse pit as per reclamation plan signed by this board
Which,
February 7th, 2007.
I'll second.
And that is per court order. The original court order.
So, he seconded it, so discussion if I may.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this was upheld in court and they still refused, I was unaware of this.
This is a court decree right here,
Okay.
which states, the respondent shall submit a reclamation plan within 60 days of this order. Thereafter, respondent shall reclaim the property in accordance with the reasonable requirements imposed by the regulator. So they were told to reclaim.
How many years have passed since that?
This was, 7 years.
9 years? This was 07?
The
9 years.
9/8 of 07.
So 9 years? 10 years, I'm sorry, 10 years.
10
Do
years,
math.
Right. No, the order was signed in '04,
Oh, some more, right.
The old
filed
order was in
filed
04.
in '03.
Right.
Just to get this straight,
Jeez.
we took him to court.
Correct,
The town won the case.
correct.
The court said you will face that amount of money.
$30,000, they were fined of $30,000. Oh.
The brief history lays it out pretty good, it's written by our attorney, actually. Starting back in 2003, the town of Ossipee sued the Morses on behalf of the planning board, seeking them to force them to reclaim the gravel pit located on Route 28. The court shut down the pit, and in 2004, that's this judgment we have here, they obtained a judgment, the town obtained a judgment against them, ordering that the Morses pay the town almost $30,000 in civil fines and attorney fees, and further ordered them to submit a reclamation plan. The Morses didn't pay and did nothing. In 2006, the town filed a motion and they were arrested and forced to pay $30,000 in bail money. There was a new deal struck, and of the $30,000 that was held in bail, $17,000 was paid to the town, and the remainder, $12,000, went into this fund that is being still held to this day by the attorney. They've paid various bills out of that, and it now has $6,800 and some odd dollars as per our minutes. They literally have not complied with anything that's in this court order.
Did they not submit a reclamation plan?
We have a reclamation.
Okay.
That was
Right here,
prepared
which
for.
was signed February 7th, 2007
Okay.
by this planning board.
Okay. But they never complied or did
No.
anything relative to that reclamation plan? Okay, I
Correct.
gotcha.
Nothing.
That'd be in Comeau Hotel.
Here it is, right here.
Well, I mean, I'll be honest with you, I don't know what the court is gonna look at when it comes to a case which is now 13 years old.
Right.
I don't know that they're gonna go back and enforce this order. It's 13 years that,
I don't think the
quite
judge
frankly,
was any
What
good.
does the lawyer come in with?
the lawyer, according to him, submitted,
responsible for this,
but listen, submitted several emails over the years to the planning board requesting that they take action. And there's no indication that the planning board,
I haven't seen it in 9 years I was here.
whether or not you saw him, or whether or not it went to the secretary's office,
It went to the secretary's office
and there was nothing, there was no action taken, so. But my concern, when you folks sent it to the selectmen, was that we were gonna try to get done what could be done out of the $6,800 that's sitting there.
That's a wrong approach.
My problem is, if that would complete the reclamation, then I'd say, okay, maybe that makes some sense, do it and be done with it. But the $6,800 is not adequate to do the reclamation. So now what do? Are we gonna spend town funds that just don't get reimbursed? That's not the avenue or the way that I think it should go. You have a standing court order, you have a reclamation plan that the owners of that property are required to comply with.
Right.
They haven't complied with it, whether they can go back and enforce this order, or if they have to enter new orders. Either way, I think the appropriate action is for the court to do it.
Start with the
and
town
in order
attorney.
that-
So that
Yeah.
money was sitting there.
Maybe Sega should start
It's not
attaching their houses and
designated.
stuff.
They have a $50,000
So that money could be
attachment
taken
against
down
that property.
and put towards the bill
Yeah.
that they owe, that's still $17,000, and not do any of it, use any of it for reclaim, and go after them for the reclaim, and if the court decides not, at least $6,800 goes to the town rather than to something.
This court order is about as strongly worded as I have ever seen a court order. And what is very, very plain is the judge was completely on the town side of this and was very disenfranchised that they had done nothing. Over and over and over, he not only issued civil fines, but said that more fines would be forthcoming if they didn't comply.
Really?
A very, very strongly worded order. So I think you have to go back to the town attorney and have him seek to enforce the reclamation plan that's on file.
Based upon the
Or can we make a
documentation.
recommendation here tonight that money, instead of being the money that's left, because it's not designated for that, rather than take that money and put it into reclamation, it's not gonna do anything to speak of, take that money and put it towards the debt that they owe the town.
I don't think they owe it, the $17,000,
Yeah,
town got. We already got that.
there's 30, right?
No, they struck, it was $30,000 initially that they paid in bail.
Yeah.
And they then struck a new deal, and $17,000 of that went to the town as civil fines, and the remaining $12,000 was put into this fund toward the reclamation. They've never done it, they've never completed
Okay,
it.
so what's
Cigarette,
designated
cigarette
for
fees.
reclamation?
Well, actually, Rick, they were charged
So they wouldn't have been
100
aware
days,
of that 12.
$275 per day.
Correct.
By court order, which was 27.5. Then there was petition, was awarded 2183 in attorney fees, 213 in costs, total of 23 paid. And they also, the court allowed a $50,000 lien against that property. Petitioners granted permission to place an attachment on the property in the amount of $50,000 to secure payment of civil penalties.
But either way, the town, albeit a good many years ago, spent a lot of money to get a court order
Right.
that unfortunately has never been enforced.
Right.
I don't think the answer now is to go around this court order and do something
No.
half-baked.
No,
I
that's why
think
my
you need to go
motion-
back and just simply have the attorney seek to enforce the order.
If possible. Yeah.
And if not, file a new one.
Right,
That
exactly.
pla- still has not been reclaimed.
No, I
It is
think that
the
is-
owner's obligation to reclaim it,
Mhm.
period. period.
I agree.
Is there a statute of limitation on a quarter of it? Is there?
Is it what, Peter?
I think a judgment's
I believe
only
it's statute of
5 years
limitation, right?
unless they renew it.
Time limit?
When I was doing something with land, it's 20 years, I think, to do something with land, so you still might be good.
We'll have to let the attorney decide that one.
Yeah, was Rick the attorney back then?
Right off.
He's been trying.
Was Rick the attorney back then?
Yeah.
Tony's motion's the way to go.
Yeah, I agree.
Any other discussion?
Nope.
Motion has been made, seconded, that we contact Attorney Sager to pursue a contempt court and force the Morse brothers to reclaim the pit. That's about what I said, Warren. All those in favor? Opposed? Peter, put your hand down.
I'm abstaining again.
He voted twice.
Yeah, that's right.
Motion carries. All right.
Oh, he's from
Are the
one
Morse
side,
brothers
one.
still around? I think I've seen the trucks around. They're still around, right? The Morse brothers?
No,
Where are they now?
I don't know. They come in and pay their taxes every year, though.
In Bermuda?
Last possible deadline.
Okay, I am gonna skip over to subdivision regulations. And I'll get that last meeting. No, we're not making any, we're making, yeah. We gotta make the changes that she recommended.
Oh, the FEMA.
FEMA.
FEMA. Did we get a hold of her and did we
Yes,
find out
I
if we
did.
needed?
I got a hold of her and she said, no, those are the only two changes which, at this time, that I am asking you to change, which is subdivision. What's the name?
10.03.
No, it's actually,
Did we correct that?
remember we had,
Yeah, we had to add in all the regulations to the site plan
correct,
for
we're working on site.
8.03.2.
Right.
Point two.
Not .2, not .3.
Correct.
We already had him in?
Yeah, we
already had
voted
him?
last week.
No, we voted last week
2 weeks ago.
and 2 weeks ago, the last meeting, that where FEMA was presenting so many problems to the town at Westwood Shores, should we vote just these in, or should we ask her if there were any other changes which she would like us to make in our site plan and subdivision and site plan. And so I called her the following morning, and she said no, just the two. As she had presented them to us.
So on the site plan review, it's the 8.03.2, and on subdivision, it's the 10.30, I think. I believe it is.
So I will make a motion that in the site plan regulations, we add 8.2.
03.2.
Oh,
03.2,
Right.
as corrected by our,
Adding 8.03? There's a paragraph on the FEMA requirements that goes into 8.03.2.
Is your motion complete?
that we add as requested by FEMA.
I'll Second.
Any discussion?
What are we actually adding?
Well,
Dig deep, Connie, dig deep. It's a lot of pages. I don't think we have a copy of that in this packet, right?
last meeting,
I think I will.
Maybe she has some.
Isn't the purpose of the proposed change to include something about the FEMA rules in your site plan approval?
Yes.
So, but why get into specific language? Why not simply?
because,
Let me finish my question.
no,
Let
me interrupt you for the simple reason that this is what she said
Okay,
she wanted in those site plans.
who does she work for?
FEMA,
All right, is she a member of the Ossipee Planning Board?
no, she
Then
is
let me
not.
finish my question.
Okay,
Why not simply include language that then you don't have to keep redoing every time FEMA changes the rules? If you simply add in to the site plan requirements that if it is in the floodplain, it must comply with all FEMA rules, period. If you get into the specific wording, there, I'll say that 3 times fast. The specific wording, then every time FEMA changes the rules, you're gonna have to change your zoning ordinance. That's foolish.
no, she is not changing the rules.
You're missing my point,
I
Tom.
understand what you're saying, Rick, but I'm saying to you, she is not changing the rules. This is when she went over our regulations on floodplain, that they were not included.
Are you looking to change the floodplain ordinance or your zoning ordinance?
The zoning ordinance, subdivision regulations,
Okay,
and
Site plan
Site plan.
review.
site plan review, which
Okay.
both have floodplain ordinances,
okay.
regulations, whatever you want to call them. When she looked over our subdivision regulations, site plan regulations, and ordinances to comply with FEMA, she came up with these 2 changes.
To comply with current FEMA rules.
Is that what, she never said it was current.
No,
Right,
that's
Steve?
what she's proposing.
That's what she's proposing.
The problem with doing it that way, Connie, is I'm not saying she's changing the rules now, but I can guarantee you that FEMA changes their rules on a fairly regular basis.
I know that.
So if you do specific language, every time FEMA changes the rules, you're gonna have to change your ordinance. Versus simply putting into your site plan regulation that if it is in the floodplain, the applicant must comply with all FEMA rules.
Requirements and regulations.
Done.
Yeah.
Whatever they happen to be currently, it will keep you from having to go back and constantly change your ordinance, trying to keep up with the federal government, which I would submit is like a cat chasing his tail. I'm just,
Connie, can I ask a question? Are we required to have language in our zoning and our other regs, the actual language of the FEMA requirements?
That's what she's trying to tell us.
She's saying we are required to have that.
That's what she's trying to tell
Under-
us. Is that
under-
what she submitted?
Right, under federal guidelines, or is that?
Under FEMA. And FEMA says, well, if you don't want to comply, we don't have to give you insurance.
Well, no. What I'm trying to determine is, are we required to have the actual language in there, or just as Rick was saying, just a notation that says that, you know, if the
I'm-
project falls in the floodplain, it has to satisfy the FEMA requirements?
I'm going by the first meeting that I had with her
Okay.
and Steve.
Yeah,
She handed me this piece of paper, Steve the piece of paper and said, these have to be included in your site plan and your subdivision regulations.
I keep saying she, was that FEMA or Office of State Planning?
But if you word it the way you
It's
said.
not FEMA.
Wait a minute, Rick, if you word it the way you just said, it is in your.
Automatically.
Because you're saying that in our site plan review, they have to meet all
State, federal, local.
state, federal,
Can we get
local laws. So if they
clarification?
change, they still have to be, right? You
To
don't-
clarify, the person you met with isn't FEMA.
She represents me.
She's the Office of State Planning,
Which is
the state agency that works hand in hand with FEMA on floodplain. So, I mean, I'm not trying to, it's splitting hairs, but it's the Office of State Planning suggesting that you have something in there. So I don't think, going back to your question, I don't think the Office of State Planning is gonna dictate
No.
language to make FEMA compliant.
And what I'm wondering is this coming out of an RSA, or is this somebody at state planning that's just saying, we want you to have this in your zoning, in your
Maybe,
subdivision?
maybe kick back to her, my suggestion would be is maybe to kick back to her and say, wouldn't it be a lot simpler to simply add this language into our site plan regulations, which is that they'll comply with the FEMA rules if you're in the floodplain?
As opposed to describing exactly what those
Basically,
FEMA
we already
rules
got
are.
that, 'cause you got to comply with all state.
I have a feeling she was given the actual RSAs that she needed to disseminate the information, and that's what she gave to everybody, but that scope of thinking never entered her realm, that, we could put a blanket statement in there to cover ourselves.
And FEMA is all by federal code.
Yes.
Office of State Planning is by RSA.
Yeah.
And then you're trying to incorporate what you need for language in the Ossipee zoning. I just don't wanna see you in a position where you have to change change your ordinance
Yeah.
every time the federal government changes the rules.
A couple times a year.
My book right here, it's the one that I was given. Just looking on the sheet here, it's 1989.
Those are old.
So am I gonna have all the changes in here? If I were looking, I mean,
You got about half of the rules now, if you like.
Subdivision.
yeah,
Yeah. That's 89.
well, that's on
That's the
89
same thing
yours.
you have.
What did you get, two?
No, the other one was the site plan review.
You got that?
Site
No, I
plan
don't
regs.
have that. I don't have that.
it's already in 8.3.2.
You can get a copy of that.
The applicant shall comply with Ossipee floodplain development ordinance and applicable state and federal regulations. Now, she's read that and she said, FEMA is saying, no, you have to put this in.
So that
Says
must,
must.
it sounds like she's telling us that that's a requirement for insurability, which we need to get some clarification of, I think.
I think both statements say the exact same thing. If the first statement says they have to comply with all FEMA rules, they have to comply with all FEMA rules.
Right, right.
You certainly don't want to try to spell out all FEMA rules in the Ossipee zoning ordinance. It'll end up being 4 volumes.
But she's saying it appears to be missing, not saying it is missing.
Can I see that?
So
I'd like to
she's,
read it.
she's covering her backside, even though she's ordered us to put it in. You got a
The
lot.
language below must be included in the subdivision regulations.
You talk
And
to
site
a certain
plan
lady in the
review
state, she says,
regulations.
railroad regulators in town have no right,
From
but the state RSA
communities
is doing
that
it. So you override
participate
state,
in the
she says
National
no.
Flood Insurance Program. So,
Must.
It's in bold even.
So, and we're just talking about those additional paragraphs of.
We can
verbiage.
insert them, what we're still covered basically, because we've
Well,
got
man,
the-
but I think,
Absolutely.
I think you're gonna spend an awful lot of time chasing your tail if you try
I think you're
try to
right.
keep up with the federal regulations. I think you're gonna spend a lot of time chasing your tail.
Yeah, we've already
well,
got all state things.
I take exception to that because these were approved in 2007, 10 years ago. And that's the only thing she can come up with.
Do they review them every year? Hmm? Because they haven't changed the FEMA rules that they're complaining about the town hasn't complied with right along.
Since '93 when we got on the phone.
91.
91, whatever it was. That's up to this board, you wanna put them in, you don't, or you don't.
I need a copy of that. I don't have that at all.
That, the thing he was just, that he was just looking
I never got that when I
at.
You had it
I
last
got all my
meeting.
books.
Last meeting, I think he had it.
You had it the last meeting.
I never got it either way.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the site plan review regulations book.
You never,
Laura
never
can
got a
I've
get
copy.
never had that book, no.
Laura can get you that.
I have that.
Cause it's gonna get changed, Timmy.
Yeah.
That's why I was having such time last week.
Right.
I can't find it. So, anyway, they.
Well, Mr. Chairman, what are you thinking?
When you were pacing through your,
Should we make another phone call and get a little more clarification, or
I've asked her twice and been told the same thing.
same thing from her?
Please take note. Ed, make sure you catch this, that I'm giving this another copy.
I'm zoomed in.
All right.
Now, Pete, you got bribe to lose that one.
What's that?
You got bribe to lose that film.
You sure that, since she has a copy?
Was
Yes,
good.
boss.
I used the last one for my origami class.
Laura, do you have copies of this? Because he never got one.
Yeah, it's called online.
So who pays for reproduction?
Whoever has the ream of paper to do it.
Yeah. You'll have to submit a bill in triplicate, so
Thanks, Laura.
they reimburse.
Oh, I remember.
I just think we need more, about 30 more state and federal agencies involved in planning. Then we truly get nothing.
They're getting to the point where we need to start using hair dye, this place give me gray hair. I didn't have any when I
You guys
started.
have long meetings.
Since he's been chair.
Most of them, I bet you, have been pretty short. I used to present to meetings where we'd be at it till like 11:30, 12 at night.
I'm sorry,
These meetings just
you used to
start going
hold
to
meetings that were till 11:30?
No, I was presenting at
Oh.
meetings,
Go on the
and
computer
because of the
and
number of
change
projects,
on the
sometimes
computer.
those meetings would go on till 11:30 or midnight.
It happens. This board don't pay enough money for these 3-4 hour meetings.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for that compensation.
What is the pleasure of this board?
So we have a motion on the floor that was seconded to adopt that wording into
What it is?
the subdivision of the ordinance. So you either withdraw your motions and we go from there, or
What it is?
Now, Rick, you had stated that, the wording, you said, if it falls within the floodplains, if what does, the property or?
Project.
So if you're amending your site plan review, how do you define, I mean, it's whoever's submitting for a site plan review of a project that's going to be in the floodplain.
Okay.
You have to abide by all FEMA regulations.
And I don't like, and I know there's always been that catchphrase, which is they have to abide by all state, federal, and local. It kind of is a catch-all. I think it does need to spell out specifically the floodplain ordinance and the FEMA rules for those developments in the floodplain. But past that, I think when you get specific with the federal and state requirements, you're simply gonna end up chasing your tail.
All the time.
If I don't have any, on its face, the wording that they're suggesting you put in is not
It's good.
crazy.
For
It's
now.
just, I think you're gonna chase your tail. And I don't know why a blanket statement wouldn't cover the same and carry the same weight. But I'd put it in. You've already got this far in that process.
I see smoke, we'll call the fire department.
I made the motion.
It's been seconded. Call a vote.
Who seconded it?
I did. You wanna withdraw it, you wanna go on?
Yes, withdraw your second.
I'll withdraw my second then.
I withdraw my motion. I will make a motion for the site plan review regulations of 8.03.2
And
shall contain A, the planning board shall review the proposed development to ensure that all necessary permits have been received from those governmental agencies which approval is required by the state or federal law, including section 404 of the Federal Water Pollution Control Act amendments of 1972, 33 U.S.C. 1334. The planning board shall require all proposals with a development greater than 50 acres, 50 lots or 50 acres, whichever is lesser.
5 acres.
5 acres. Includes base flood elevation data which is within such proposals. The planning board shall require the applicant to submit sufficient evidence, construction drawings, grading and land treatment plans, so as to allow a determination that all proposals are consistent with the need to minimize flood damage. All public utilities and facilities, such as gas, sewer, electrical, water systems are located and constructed to minimize or eliminate flood damage, and adequate drainage is provided so as to reduce exposure to flood hazards. I would eliminate the applicant shall comply with, oh, wait a minute, and, yeah, I would leave that alone. All right,
Okay.
yeah, made, seconded, discussion. All those in favor? Motion carries. Section 10.04 of the Ossipee subdivision regulations. I make a motion that we insert, the planning board shall review the proposed development to assure that all necessary permits have been received from those governmental agencies from which approval is required by federal or state law, including section 404 of the Federal Water Pollution Control Act amendments of 1972, 33 U.S.C. 1334.
I'll second.
Made and seconded, discussion. All those in favor? Motion carries. That still hasn't, both of them still hasn't complied with all state regulations.
I just, part of me says, God pity the applicant. It's bad enough they're gonna try to navigate Ossipee zoning rules. Now they've gotta know state laws and federal statutes.
Oh,
God pity.
Our zoning ordinance in Ossipee is pretty lenient compared to a lot of others.
I agree. But, you know what, it's federal, US 33, whatever he just said?
Well, what they're trying to do is, the flood insurance program is basically bankrupt.
Right.
so we're trying to tighten it up a little.
If it wasn't, it'd probably after Harvey will be.
Mr. McConnell, you ready to do your ordinance revisions? Pending word changes for 4.9, 24.1.1, and your site plan review amendments determine square footage limits for permit versus a,
4.9 campers and trailers.
the other one that says 4.9.
Yeah, it's been 21 years since we had any change on that, and in 21 years, these campers have come a long ways.
You have wording for it?
I don't have any wording for it, no, I don't.
All right, you want past that. You don't have any wording on 24 either.
On what?
24.1.1.
24.1.1, contractors will be required, well, residents, $2,500 or less will not need a permit. Contractors need permit, period. How do you want me to write it?
That's up to you. You're the one that wants to enforce it.
You need a way to control it. $2,500, you can do a $15,000 to $20,000 job. And for the contractors, and for me not to be able to go out and inspect it because there's no building permit, it's crazy.
But if I might, we've met with Steve and we agree with him on this one. But I think what you need to do is reduce to writing what it is that you're proposing for an amendment.
Okay.
Then be able to hand that out so that everybody can read it, look at it, dissect it, and then you explain why you wanna do what you wanna do, and see if they wanna, see if they agree enough to include it. I think what he's saying makes an awful lot of sense.
Oh, I'm.
But come up with a proposed wording and then get it out to everybody for the next meeting.
We've tried that for the last couple of months, just to get together and.
Yeah, based on our.
But I'm saying, what I'm suggesting is you do the wording.
Yeah.
You write down what you think it should say. And then let them, if they wanna change it, then change it here, but you put in what you want to see first.
Okay.
The other guy that's out there trying to enforce this every day. And
All three. Next time we meet, you'll have it.
So you don't have any amendment for the site plan review amendment?
Site plan, again, I will put it in writing.
Square footage limits for permit.
I'll put it in writing.
All right. Accessory building,
I'll put it in writing.
okay? I'm just going by what
Yep.
the illustrious secretary puts in our agenda.
Grab that hammer and hit him on the head.
I only learned a bunch.
It's a nice gavel, Tony.
Oh,
Gavel, whatever you wanna call it.
I like the one Ski had.
Ski had a gavel?
case number 17,
Watermelon spot, smasher.
6-V was denied. This over on Stoneview Road.
Where is Stone?
Brownridge Estates, off from Brownridge Road.
It's in Brownsbridge Estates. They gave 17-7-V, they permitted, and 17-8-V, Long Sands Road was granted. Any questions on those? Joseph, you want to say something? You've been sitting here quietly all night.
That's a good thing, isn't it?
Yes.
Well, he hasn't been that quiet.
Well, no, but if you're asking, I would like to make a comment.
Go ahead.
I'm just going back to the convalescent home, the nursing home thing. I would really like you to look at the definitions of that, because, for instance, we had a situation where we had a rehab facility coming into Moultonville Rd, but the citizens could get involved because it needed a special exception to go there. And what came out of that meeting at that time was that it wasn't just a rehab. Well, what came into it was who was going to be in that rehab. And it could have been, you know, I don't know what they're doing. I don't know the people coming. This has nothing to do with it. I just think that it should be more of, that you should have more information before you make a final decision on anything about what is coming into an area, especially next to a school. Because that wasn't used as a rehab. It was a rehab, but it was for people that had brain injuries.
It wasn't even a rehab, nor is this though, I think, and I'm not.
The facility that was there?
No, but it was a transitional living even when it was high watch for, in that case, it was for brain injured adults.
Correct, right, yeah.
What they're proposing is a transitional living, it's not a rehab, and it's not proposed to be a
No,
rehab.
I understand that.
The rehab is over in Effingham. This is a satellite building where people would be staying for 28 days as the second step out.
In their program.
Which was more like a residential, which was set up as a condos in, just on the outside of Effingham. But you know the road that goes just before you,
Right.
before you head up there. You know the condos that are right there? Yeah, there. That's what that originally was for. For High Watch. It was the transitional situation out of there.
So Joel, is your concern that they may be violent or criminals there or something?
Well, when the situation was coming in back, the property in back of Lord's funeral home was going to be a transitional situation. I don't know, I forget. This was like 10, almost 12 years ago now. But in the meetings that came out of it, because it was a special exception, it finally came out that one of their members said that it was going that you could have child molesters there. You could have all sorts of things going on, and this came out. So it got shut down entirely after that got said. So
Very quickly, as far as that goes, I do believe that no sex offenders can be within, 500 feet of the school, right? Something like that.
They can't
Yeah,
reside there.
So they wouldn't be able to
Quite
reside.
clearly, he identified exactly who these people are going to be in that transition facility. These are people that are going through transition of drug or alcohol.
Substance abuse.
Yeah,
Substance
substance abuse. And clearly, this is not the first stage of that process. And, you know, I mean, I've been involved in projects like this before, and this is the final stage before they are, let's say, reintroduced into the community. So it's not like they're coming in for their initial treatment in this facility.
Correct.
Well, this thing on Moultonville Road,
Different animal, different animal.
no, it's not. Because I really wish it would be great to go back to the documents. I'm sure the town has them. Because it came in front of the zoning board at that time, because it was a special exception. I just ask that you look at the definitions and just get more information than the few sentences that came out of them tonight about what is really gonna happen there, that's all. I mean, that's all I'm asking, I'm all set, thanks.
Number one,
Yeah,
an informal discussion
correct.
is not the final.
Oh, yeah,
That is why they have, when they come in front, they did not give us a letter of intent. When you do a site plan, you come in, give us a letter of intent. We read it. If it's not satisfactory to us, do it again. Continue your,
Well,
and this is just preliminary.
Non-binding.
It's non-binding, so we can't.
Well, no, I understand that, but you've already basically assigned them a convalescent home.
No, I'm not.
Well, you sort of went with that decision tonight, the way that I read it.
That's his decision.
You know, so there's just that. I'm just asking you to keep an open mind and investigate it more, if you want.
Oh, we will investigate it more. We don't have a letter from the fire chief. we can,
We don't have an application.
we don't have,
Yeah.
even have an application, but we could request a letter from the chief of police, chief of fire department, state regulations, because they're coming in the state too.
Right.
So it's not just us.
And, you know, we're very clear that it's non-binding and it's an informal discussion on either party. And that was what we very quickly came to as the best fit for the information we had. If he comes in with something completely different, then, yeah, obviously, no, that's not gonna work, you know?
We letters for the idea that there's alcohol and drug abuse. So if they come in with a letter of intent that says anything other than that, then the situation changes.
Correct.
Correct.
And it was Tri-County Cap that was gonna do that other piece up there. And everything was going fine until this one guy that was working for them spoke. And it all came
I
up.
believe that was gonna be a homeless shelter, Joe, I don't think.
No, no, it wasn't a homeless, I remember that, it definitely wasn't. I'm more than happy to go and pull the records on it, you know, just so you can.
It really has no bearing whatsoever on the Vic House.
Right.
It's a facility dealing with a situation, just like that was a facility dealing with a situation.
The difference is that that one required a special exception.
No, but depending upon what the real terms are.
And we don't know that until we get the application.
Correct. So you either have a permitted use, or you have a special exception under the institutional use.
If he comes in
That's it, that's all I'm asking.
and we determine that it needs a special exception, we turn the application down, and he's gotta go to ZBA before he can come to us. Or we make it conditional upon the ZBA giving him that special exception.
Right.
There's many ways to carry it, but it's all on an individual basis, and that's the way it's gonna be.
And there'll be a
Rick,
public,
you want something to say?
I wanted to make a suggestion, and mainly it was because Joe was sitting here, not because it's just Joe. The Board of Selectmen actually made a change in our agenda a few months ago, and it was at a suggestion that was made to us that we ought to include a public input portion up front during the meeting. So that, seeing Joe sitting there, now, if he was sitting there for the whole meeting, and that's fine, but if he was a member of the public that simply wanted to come in and address the board real quickly or ask a question, he would have had to have sat through almost 2 hours of meeting.
2 hours and 15 minutes.
More than 2 hours of meeting, in order to be able to ask a question. I think your meetings, quite frankly, run way too long for what you do, but that's neither here nor there, and I'm not a regular member, I'm only a visitor. But if I were a member of the public and wanted to come in here and ask a question, I would not be real pleased to have to wait 2 hours and 15 minutes. So I'm going to suggest that in your agenda, that right after your roll call, that you provide for a short public input to allow somebody who may be visiting to ask a question without having to sit here for 2 hours.
Well, are you saying, even when somebody's coming in to present an informal review, just identifying a potential project to us for the first time for our edification, that's all it is, it's just educating us on what they're intending to do, but we don't have any formal application. So you're saying, at that point, have a public input period?
I'm saying, that looking at the way your agenda is set up, all right, call to order, pledge of allegiance, roll call, then you do the meeting minutes. Then you started tonight into the financial on budget, talking about bills, all while members of the public are sitting there waiting to address the board. I'm simply suggesting that you reverse that, so that you allow a member of the public to come in and ask a question, and then go immediately into whoever's sitting here waiting to talk to you. Finish up your budget business and all that stuff after they're gone. Why are you going to inconvenience somebody who's have to, and force them to sit there and listen to stuff that they are not remotely interested in? I'm just simply suggesting you ought to look at your agenda. And if Joe was a guy who simply wanted to ask a quick question tonight, he would have sat here for 2 hours and 15 minutes in order to be able to do that. That's absurd.
So maybe just ask at the beginning of the meeting if anybody has any questions for the board, not related to a site plan or anything like that.
Right.
Because that would obviously take a lot of time if they, even if they come in for a preliminary, it usually goes 15, 20 minutes. And just to clarify, Rick, the meetings don't usually run this long. We're doing this for you, buddy.
I have only been
They've been going as long since last spring.
I have only visited here 3 times, and all 3 times it's been this long. So I don't know that that is a true statement.
It's not.
All right. My 2 cents worth in that, Rick, is that your agenda is quite different than what our agenda is, for the simple reason that we have more public interaction than you do. You do your financials, you do your your department heads, Steve, whoever comes in has to say something. We have it so that any other business, we never had that until last year. I pushed for that. And yes, Laura and I have discussed this, and is something that we were going to bring up when we did our protocol, which we've got to change. We have been working on it. These guys all got their homework, and we just haven't got to it. That's one of the things that was in the protocol.
With all due respect, you're the chairman. You set the agenda. When this was suggested to us, we changed it the following Monday.
Right.
I'm simply suggesting, Mr. Chairman, that you adjust your agenda and advertise a short public input section toward the front. If you advertise it that way, how many people who have ever watched one of these meetings, even on government oversight, how many people are gonna come here and wait until 20 minutes after 9 to address this board? If you advertise that there is a place for a short public comment, who knows who may have come to this meeting tonight? I think that you set the agenda, I'm simply suggesting it. You do what you want to. I would not be happy if I were a member of the public tonight sitting there waiting 2.5 hours.
I understand what you're saying, but I also, if there is public input like you say, then we have to limit it to non-agenda items.
Right.
So
right,
do it.
Right, I think you're correct, Connie. Because we already have time dedicated for those items on the agenda further down.
And, like I say, Laura gave it to us and I changed it around in the proposal, but I didn't want to. Yes, it's my prerogative to change this agenda anytime I want. And we will change it to Mr. Morgan's.
I understand what you're saying, and I agree with it to a certain point. But most people that are coming here, usually they've already talked to the secretary and they've got themselves on the agenda to go over a job site or something, or come in and ask us what we think about a certain.
And that's not gonna change.
That's fine, okay? Now, if I'm a member of the public, and I just wanna ask a question about something, this office is open. How many hours during the week? They can step in and ask that question and get their answer. If it's something that they need, I just think you have to be careful when you open the doors up every 2 weeks and just say, come on and ask any question you want.
Right.
And you start it, before you do anything else, we could sit here for an hour discussing things that have nothing to do with.
And let me just finish the purist in this, and I don't want to sound argumentative, but with all due respect, the secretary isn't elected.
I understand that.
No, let me finish. I'm talking about the public's access to an elected board. I'm not suggesting you take an hour. what I would suggest, Mr. Chairman, if I were running the meeting, is to say to folks, is there anybody here that wanted an opportunity to address the board on a non-agenda item?
But
Okay, no, thank you, let's move on. If there were somebody, they would not have had to sit here for now 2 hours and 20 minutes waiting to ask a question.
But Rick, I can see a pitfall, wait a minute, I can see a pitfall to yours.
Listen, continue to run this meeting as screwed up as you want to.
No, I'm not trying, I'm trying to weigh all, like you guys do down there, Selectmen, you weigh everything.
How can the ability for the public to address an elected board be a complicated, Ed, help me out here. How can addressing the board, a public board, by a citizen be a complicated issue? I'm simply suggesting you give them a chance.
I will give you an example. Francis Lord is not on the agenda tonight. Public input. Yes, sir, Mr. Lord.
Oh.
Well, I want to do this, and this.
Well, Connie,
And how are you going to stop them?
that was the
You
point that I was.
shouldn't stop him. If they want to walk in, well, my point is this, Connie, you shouldn't stop them. You should never stop them. If a member of the public comes in and wants to ask a question of this board, they should have the ability to do that. They don't have to be on the agenda. The same way somebody can walk into Selectmen's meeting and ask a question. Why the heck would you be opposed to that?
I'm not opposed to it, except for the fact that this, what draws me back is the informal discussion.
Right.
That Francis Lord could walk in here and take up 20 minutes of public input to do something that somebody else has already made an appointment to do.
Can I
Listen,
ask you something, Connie?
You can do what you want to.
Connie, I think what I was trying to suggest earlier, when I said this, was if we allow this block of time, if anyone had, site plan review questions, then, we'd ask them to hold them over, till after but if they had a simple question for the board or something, then, let them address us.
And I go back to
The informal discussion.
I go back to where do you set the line? Then if somebody wants to come in and ask, because Steve has told them they have to do such and such. And it's a question that Laura should be able to answer,
Right,
because he's denied them something
right.
where it shouldn't take up the public. And I agree with Rick too, but I just don't know how. The only other way I could say, okay, we're having public input, you have 3 minutes.
Right. But here's my question I was gonna pose. Suppose, like you said, Connie, somebody comes in and they actually address the board and say, they're coming in unannounced and unscheduled for an informal review. Don't we have requirements in our criteria, an informal review, a site plan review, that says they have to be put on the agenda?
No.
No.
Because that to me would be should be a criteria, so that if somebody is looking for an informal review, they have to schedule it. Whereas if somebody's just coming in to ask a general question, not project specific, but just a general question, I don't see a problem with them doing that if it doesn't get, like you say, there'd have to be time limits because it could go on for hours and hours.
They don't
But if it's
have
just
to.
a general information.
You don't have to schedule anyways.
I don't want to, listen, it's now 2.5 hours. I think you've taken 2.5 hours here tonight to conduct an hour's worth of business. That's just my opinion. I was simply trying to say, you ought to have had also 5 minutes for somebody from the public to come in and address the board. If you all don't think so, keep right on running the meetings. I'm only a visitor, and I pray I won't have to keep visiting. That's all.
I ain't gonna run again, I don't think. I'm
That's all.
tired of these long meetings.
2.5 hours.
Well, but in all fairness, Joe did have discussion during the discussion period of the informal review.
I
He
only
just
used him as
decided-
an example of a person
Right,
sitting there.
right.
It could have just as easily been any member of the public
I agree.
that wanted to ask a
I agree.
question. I was just a suggestion.
I like your suggestion because I think it would also encourage people to come and ask questions
Exactly.
to the board. if they knew that they could, come in and ask their quick question and then, skedoodle rather than waiting 2.5 hours to ask a question.
I know what you're saying, because before I was elected to the board, I attended many meetings, and sometimes I was asked if I had any input, sometimes I wasn't. And, none other times I did have any input, but I was just there for my own information, but I see your point.
You also, at the end, is always asked, is there any other business to come before this? So,
See, the only reason I made my suggestion about holding over a project, someone with a project-specific questions, that it might be lengthy, and we might want to take a lot of time and cover all the basics with them. I mean, I know we had
Aye.
somebody come in here and ask
Okay.
questions for an hour,
Okay.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
Third.
I will make this announcement that I will take into consideration Mr. Morgan's suggestion and Mr. Norris's suggestion, and you'll have a surprise on next month.
We need to get these meetings back to 2 hours or less. This is getting ridiculous.
Well, you stop telling you tell the people not to come in. I hear a motion to
Adjourn.
adjourn.
There was a second.
All those in favor?
Discussion?
Hey.
Can I give you some comment?
What was that?
We may have to push our time up 3.5.
You remember at the beginning of the meeting, you get a lot of feedback?
We need feedback.
Remember?